Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Viva Commercial and Medical Summit Connect. It is great to have you all back, and we have a fantastic day lined up for you all with over 2,000 fellow experts from across the industry. Now, the one thing that we've learned over the last 2 years is whether it's COVID-19 or climate change, the time is right for radically different approaches to address the big challenges. As an industry, you've achieved amazing things, especially in the last couple of years. And in many cases, you've had to rely on digital interactions to reach your stakeholders. But now that in-person is back, the big question is, we've built digital relationships, but how do we make them sustainable? And most importantly, how do we make them real and relevant? How do we pivot now that the rules of the game have changed? So with the as we come out of COVID and we start to return to a new kind of normal, what we're seeing is that physicians are ever more scheduling time for appointments. And what this means is there are no more waiting rooms, no more hallway chats, no sitting shoulder to shoulder. And instead, in person or remote, medical, marketing or sales, we have to be relevant immediately in order to be heard by increasingly pressurized healthcare systems. So interaction has to be deliberate, relevant and timely every time. So how do we use digital technology and new ways of engaging to identify and make more meaningful connections? Who should we build relationships with in an increasingly complex healthcare ecosystem? How do you ensure that your content connects to the changing needs of customers and stakeholders? And how do we increase relevance and find the right balance of in-person and digital engagement for your organization, your products, and the markets that you're operating within? These are the questions that we're going to try and answer this morning and throughout the day. Now, as always, our part in this is to build the industry cloud for life sciences, to help you do the vital work that you do every day. And the way in which we do that is we use our values. So number one, doing the right thing. So an example of that is our move to being a public benefit corporation, which we didn't do to change Viva. But what we did was we wanted to take the way in which we govern ourselves internally and then lock that into our external governance so that you as an industry could feel comfortable in the fact that the Viva you deal with now and that you've dealt with in the past is the same Viva with the same values and the same principles that you've come to know over the coming years and over the coming decades. Next up, customer success. And towards that end, what we've done is we've invested in software. So you'll see the advancements that we've made in our commercial suite to address the ever-changing needs of the industry. Data, where we've really made some heavy investments to make sure that we can help you to better target your interactions. And business consulting, to help you move your organization to consume these new capabilities. Next up, employee success. So we try and create within Viva a place where our employees can do their best work and thrive. And in doing so, make sure that when you deal with us, you're dealing with folks who are highly motivated and passionate about your success. And then finally, the one thing we always hope that you see with us, which is speed. So making sure that we are always addressing things as soon as they come up. So in order to put into context today's summit, I'm really, really pleased that we've been joined by a couple of really prominent industry leaders. So we have Monica Shaw from Leo, and we have Timo Andersson from Boehringer Ingelheim. So Monica is the Executive Vice President for Region Europe, Canada, and Australia within Leo. She's a medical doctor by training, and she's worked throughout the value chain in R&D, medical and commercial, and she's done that in some pretty exotic places, having started off in the UK, moved to Panama, then Singapore, and now she's based in Copenhagen, where at Leo headquarters. And then we have Timo Andersen. So Timo is head of human health for Boehringer Ingelheim. And he is globally responsible for Boehringer Ingelheim's innovative portfolio across diabetes, oncology, pulmonology, and cardiology. And anyone who knows Timo knows how dedicated he is to challenging the status quo and towards innovative customer engagement. So let's see what they have to say. So Monica, Timo, welcome. So we've had over 18 months living remotely, living on Zoom, Teams, or your web conference of choice. How's it been for you both and your organizations? Maybe Monica, we could start with you.
So honestly, confession time, I don't hate Zoom. And I know that's kind of controversial to say these days, but I think it has brought a lot of breadth to my relationship. So don't get me wrong, I still miss the one-on-one connections that you get face to face. But there's something about being able to jump on a Zoom call with somebody in another part of your organization across the world and connect with them that I think is something we didn't have the ability to do before. So personally, I hope we don't go 100% back to the old ways, but I think we're all getting to a point where that hybrid mix is probably going to be what helps us the most.
From my end, it's amazing what we get used to, but I think at least for myself, I had a very same experience a couple of weeks back. So we were at a town hall. There's probably 2,000, 3,000 people on the receiving end. And we had 15, 20 people in the room. And these people with their eye contact, seeing their emotions, that was actually for me what made the difference and made that emotional connection to me. So I like it, Monica, but having people in the room, that's still super important.
So after largely digital interactions for the best part of 2 years, how are you and your organizations doing at rebuilding that emotional connection with healthcare professionals?
So we've lastly, in that pre-digital world, we defined out that emotional connection by a physical relationship. And in a digital world, we simply need to shift that in fueling that emotional connection at many different levels and targeting other emotions like that trust, the relevance, speed, proximity, and being digital empathetic. That we need to run by building an easy and fast and super relevant engagement with our customers. I think if we do that, we can still have that emotional connection.
And Monica, how have you been finding that?
It's really interesting because we've been launching a product in this environment over the last few months. So we've been doing a lot of work to understand what are people's preferences. And when it comes to channel preferences, as you can imagine, there's the full range. There's those that want 100% digital. There's those that still want fax and everything in between. But I think what's been a more interesting learning for us is the kind of content that people want. I think we were maybe concerned that with everything that's happening at the moment, that maybe customers would be less interested in the offerings that industry has. But actually, as Timo says, it's about being relevant. It's about adding value to their day-to-day. So we've actually seen quite a lot of pull, but for the right type of content and how we deliver that to make sure that we're servicing needs and needs that are evolving as they're engaging with their customers and their patients in a digital environment.
So thinking through a little bit further into that environment, I mean, even prior to the pandemic, we saw an increasingly complex landscape and ecosystem that you were having to identify who to build relationships and how to do that. Throughout the pandemic, if anything, it's become even more complex. How do you go about understanding who and how to build that relationship with, and how do you balance the different roles of commercial and medical within that?
No, absolutely. As you say, the world is, if anything, more complex. There are more stakeholders at every part of the value chain, whether we're talking about payers, customers, or how we support patients in understanding their disease. So key account management has probably never been more important than it is today. And this role of commercial and medical, I think, is a fascinating one. As you mentioned, I used to work in the medical arena, and it's so important for us to understand the role that medical can bring. And I still see that as an evolution. If I look at where we are as an organization today, I think we can be even clearer about the role that medical needs to play in the future as customer demands and expectations evolve, and their needs are probably more around what's going to serve my patient. In this time, my trade-offs in terms of how I manage my patient might be different. My balance of efficacy and safety might be different. And these are very much scientific, in-depth conversations that our medical teams need to have. And we need to support them in the same way that we've supported our reps, both from a capabilities and a platform perspective.
And Chris, you talked about a complex healthcare system, and surely so, but we also talking about a system under pressure. If we just look at the global demographics, if we think our healthcare systems are under pressure now, let's dial the clock 10 years forward. Those demographics will put the systems under so much pressure that what we do today will not be enough. Pharma, anyone needs to put in radical innovation over the next 10 years. And here digitalization is, or has to be, one of the solution. What digitalization allows us and our customers to do much better than today is to record and to understand and measure and demonstrate real value around the patients. And we all need to capture that. The payers, our customers, our clinicians, we all need to understand that and have that as a basis for our understanding, and have that as a basis for our interactions really surviving in a healthcare system under pressure. The other element is in reshaping how we do things as an industry. Many of the baby boomer doctors will retire over the next couple of years, or have already retired. And maybe the next generation of doctors, they might not be my kids, the digitally native, but they have had digitalization throughout their training, and especially through the last 5 to 10 years of their specialization. That is changing their expectations and how we need to deal with this. And we already see that. Monica talked about that digitalization, the way we change our interactions. And we are moving away from just being a friendly face. We simply need, I think Monica talked about it as well, we need to move into being a relevant face. And our customers, they don't care what's on our business card, whether it says commercial rep, MSL, key account manager. They want us to solve their issues. And this is why when we talk about dealing with a complex health system under pressure, we need to think much more fluently, and we need to think much more through a continuum of services, offerings, and interactions. Because serving our customers' needs, that's not a simple task, and we cannot solve that by having two customer-facing roles. Is more complex than that.
So I love the point that you both keep raising and touching on, which is this relevance, actually making sure that you are you're having the right interaction with the right people at the right time. How should we, and how are you using digital to drive that experience, to increase the relevance and to improve the interaction? And Timo, maybe just staying with you on that one.
One element is systems data, but it's all up here. I think it's a massive mindset shift from being out there alone to working as a corporation in generating insights about the corporation. So what we talk a lot about in Boehringer is gain that insight and then share, because that's when the insights come into fruition. When we talked about our traditional customer facing roles, we come there every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. We have the information in our head, and we have a very good conversation with the doctor or with the healthcare professional in that setting. That has to go. That has to go. The rep needs to base that visit on everything the company knows about that customer. And what I learn as a rep in that meeting, I need to share it with everyone. That's the mindset shift that will catapult ourselves forward, that will make us more relevant. And it's not an easy jump to do when you've always had my customer and to think about our customer. But at least in my job, if you're not sharing, you're not part of the team creating fantastic experiences for our customers.
And just digging into that, Monica, you touched on the role of key account management, and Timo has very eloquently put the case for that there. I mean, how are you going about thinking about that full 360-degree view of a customer, especially where you might have multiple individuals approaching them from your organization?
I could not agree with you more, Timo. I mean, I think we patted ourselves a little bit on the back over the last year in terms of measuring our number of digital engagements. Look how much they're increasing. But volume and quantity, as we well know, is not sufficient. And if you look at any other industry, understanding your customer, that customer centricity, using data analytics to understand their preferences, what is it they want to see and what way do they want to see it, is vital. And we're so much further behind than any other industry. So I feel your passion, Timo. I feel that there is so much further for us to be able to go here. And Chris, when you ask how do we manage that 360, we have got better, we have, but there still is a long way to go. There's still a lot of manual sharing. There's still a lot that's contingent on an individual. And we need to get better at the data and analytics for that piece to be seamless, because it can't also just be within one country. You know, I'm trying to milk all the insights that I'm getting out of Germany as my first launch market. But if that's all automated, if that's something that we can get technology to help us with, that for me is where the future is going to be.
So Monica, is the discipline that we need to have around these things is super important. And I know we are talking to a group of leaders here. What our teams need is also our honesty and clarity. That the model we used to have is gone. It's gone. And there's no turning back. And that, I think that honesty will also help us do that change management and shift that mindset. And there are so many examples. Monica has that in her teams. I have that in my teams. When suddenly teams get that idea of, wow, what it really does in terms of sharing and the wows you can create. When you build that data, you translate that in, and it's super amazing when it happens. And Monica is smiling, and so I can see that she has experiences as well.
Well, so I want to deep dive on this because I love this whole topic and theme that we all know that the move to digital is just relentless now. But that's one thing to have that trend. It's a whole other thing to overcome the inertia and muscle mass of an industry, 30, 40 years of in-person, rep turning up, in-person detail. How are you going about bringing that to life in your organizations and really driving home that change? And that's a question to either of you.
It's a great question. And I think we're looking for different capabilities than we were maybe 10 years ago. So we've started to talk a lot in our organization about VUCA. Now, VUCA is not a new concept, but things have never been more volatile, more uncertain, more complex, or more ambiguous. And the skill set that you need to navigate that kind of world is radically different to the rep of 10, 15 years ago. So if you want to be relevant, capable as a rep, we're going to support you learning those new skills. But what you need to be is curious. You need to have an open mindset, and you need to be agile at picking up new concepts and new ideas. And leveraging digital is absolutely one of those. It's in your best interest as a rep. You will have a higher performance, a better outcome if you learn how to use these tools. But it is a change, it's a big change. So being able to support people understand what's in it for me and how do I get there is not a simple thing. It takes a lot of work across a lot of layers of the organization, for sure.
So we've talked a lot about also in our conversation what's changing for the customer facing roles, and sometimes just flipping around. What are the requirements for our marketeer strategists that sit in the back office? And that model has to change as well. Now we do the new campaign, we do the detail aid for the January sales meeting, and then we wait another 6-8 months for the August sales meeting. What? That's not being speedy digital. We need to move into so much shorter cycles, doing micro adjustments to our campaigns materials, and not spending 4 months in doing a glossy detail aid that was based on market research that was 6 months old, so that we actually dealing with 10 to 12 months old data that we plan to use for another 6 months. That's absolutely crazy. So flipping that around, also showing the rest of the organization that our ability to take insights, flip that into new campaigns, new materials, new wow experiences for our customers in a matter of weeks. We're not good at that either, but we're moving.
So it's interesting. It's almost moving from a single team sport to a full team effort across this, isn't it? And so, I have to ask, since it's our Viva conference today, what is it that we can do to help you as you both go about on your journey?
So from my side, at least, I think we have come a long way in using better tools to engage with our customers. But where I would love to get more help is how can we consolidate these data and analytics, this depth of insight that I think we've both talked about, to create this full 360 picture of our customers. And as Timo said, one that evolves quickly. This isn't about hanging about and doing very big pieces of market research. It's about trying, testing, adjusting very rapidly on a continuous iterative basis. So wherever you can help us with that, very much appreciated.
Yeah, and I think when as Monica says, helping us company by company doing that, but as you are an industry leading provider as well, you see things across companies. We all experimenting, we all learning. And I think it is in everybody's interest, all business leaders that are on this call as well, to move our industry forward. Yes, we need to be competitive, and we want to win, and we want to be the sexiest company, but we want to be the sexiest and most relevant industry as well, and figuring out how we can accelerate joint learnings, how we can take standards forward, so that our customers will say, not Leo is fantastic or Boehringer Ingelheim is fantastic, but that the industry in 2 to 3 years, wow, they understood us, they took our model forward. And I think if you guys can help accelerate that, then you go above and beyond what is probably on your mission statement.
Monica, Timo, thank you so much for your time and insights. I love speaking to each of you, and I think we proved this morning it's even better when we get the both of you together. So thank you both for your time. Really great framing of our conference today. Speak to you both soon. It was great to hear from Monica and Timo earlier. And one thing that's particularly clear coming out of that is their focus on externally, it's all about relevance. And internally, it's a team sport, and it's bringing the best of the organization to create those relevant interactions. So we've heard very eloquently from Monica and Timo about the opportunities and the challenges facing us all. And so next, it's over to my friend and colleague, Paul Sharwa, who's going to talk to you a little bit about what we at Viva are doing to help support you. Paul, over to you.
Thank you, Chris, and my pleasure to be here with you today. Thanks for joining. I get to share a bit of our commercial strategy and our direction and where we're going and what we're focused on. But I'd like to start with where we are in the industry and some of the industry context. And what you've all accomplished over the last 2 years has been pretty remarkable. The entire industry has shifted to digital, particularly in Europe. We see very impressive movement to digital, helping to keep business continuity going, but also access, the important access that you need and have with your customers, keeping that flow of conversation going. Now, if you look at these statistics, if you looked at them 2 years ago before the pandemic started, they would all be dramatically lower, some very much close to zero. So you've made a lot of progress in a very, very short amount of time. So we're proud of helping the industry move to digital and working together to accomplish these goals. But we've learned along the way, we've learned a lot about what digital means and really some of those best practices and thoughts. And that's what I'd like to share. And first and foremost is that digital is not standalone. Relationships matter. The human being that you have is so fundamental to the engagement model that you have. Relationships are critically important. Now, really from a couple different perspectives. First, we have data that suggests when there's a relationship between the rep and the healthcare professional, your digital access increases and your digital engagement increases dramatically. In fact, by about threefold. So for those reps that have the strongest relationships, they're getting higher engagement. They're getting their emails open at a much, much higher pace. They're getting more meetings. And in those conversations, those engaged meetings, for example, they're getting 2 to 3 times more time with their customer. So the relationship matters. Now, you also heard from Timo and Monica in the fireside chat with Chris that it works the other way, meaning if you add professional value during those digital engagements with your customers, you enhance your relationship. So relationships help you get digital access, and digital access helps you build better relationships. Now, we know that digital has created a really significant opportunity for us. It's accelerated our pace to digital and achieving all the benefits that digital allows, but it's also created some disruption along the way. Disruption for your customers, meaning the way that they have to interact with their patients, right? The increase in the use of telehealth and telemedicine with their patient population, but also changing how they interact with you. It's very different. It's different from meeting you in the office than it is from engaging with you digitally. It's also created disruption for your field teams. Your field teams typically who are very comfortable working in the field in a healthcare professional's office have been relegated to working on occasion in their home office. And the way you work in a home office is often very different than the way you work in a field. In the field, you may have an iPad. In a home office, you may be working from a browser. You may be using your phone more. So that's created some friction. And we're going to talk about how we're focused on addressing that. But also, digital has shifted the industry to an entirely different steady state. In fact, I would argue we're not even at a steady state yet. There's a lot that still needs to be played out with digital and what the new steady state and new norm looks like, which has created the need for more visibility, better data, better insights that need to become more data-driven. So given that backdrop, we have created our focus to help you drive to what we call digital excellence. And I'll define what that means, digital excellence in a moment, but also using data in really innovative ways, using new and unique data sets and also embedding that data where it needs to be used the most in the software that it's being used by that business user. And then also user experience, creating the very best user experience for your users, making it really easy to consume the data, consume the software, use it, and get the job done that they're focused on. So where technology is an enabler and not a barrier. So this is our focus. I'd like to walk you through some of these key areas. And we'll start with digital excellence. Now, digital excellence, I want to call this out specifically because I know historically people have thought about remote as being digital. we're separate, we're in different places, that's remote. But really, we don't think about that as digital. We think about digital as much, much more sophisticated and advanced than simply being in a different location. So first, I want to define it. We think about it as channels. So of course, the choice of channels, it's now table stakes in the industry. You have to be able to interact, engage with your customers across a variety of channels in a way that's entirely seamless. So this is first and foremost. But beyond channels is this idea of being able to use content and use content effectively, very personalized, targeted, relevant content, regardless of what channel that is. Now, what we know from the data that we have is that interactions that use content are 2 times more effective than interactions that don't use content, meaning they're twice as promotionally responsive as if you didn't use content, which suggests that in channels, you should use content as much as you possibly can, regardless of what that channel is. And we'll talk more about that. And then finally, this idea of being data generating. And when I talk about data generating, I mean automatically generating data as a byproduct of having some interaction that's digital. We know that that's not always the case, but we're aspiring to drive this data generation and make this excellent. And when we talk about digital excellence, this is what we mean. Using the relationships, of course, but choice of channels, using content, and then being data generating. The reality, though, is in some cases slightly different than what we just talked about. Not everybody is achieving digital excellence because of some of the barriers that are naturally in place. But I'll start with one area, which is Engage Meeting, which we and you obviously know very well. Engage Meeting is it's a way to engage with customers remotely, but use content. We know that content is used by looking at our data 80%, roughly 80% of the time when an Engage Meeting is done. So that's very, very high. And we also know that Engage Meeting automatically generates insights about what happened in that interaction, automatically. Now, Engage Meeting is not the only channel, of course, that everybody's using. In some cases, people are using Zoom or Teams or whatever's comfortable for their customer, whatever their preferred channel is. And with Zoom and Teams, we can assume that the use of content is as high as Engage Meeting. We don't know that for a fact because it's not data generating. It doesn't create all of those breadcrumbs or those insights about that interaction automatically, unless somebody's actually actively recording all of those details or that rep is, but that puts the burden on a human being, not automatically generated. And then the story gets a little worse as you look at some other channels like phone, for example. We know from talking with our customers that 10, 15, even 20% of their interactions during this pandemic period have been over the phone. And over the phone, we're pretty confident that most of those interactions are not using content. And we're pretty sure that most of those interactions are not data generating, automatically data generating, that is. And similarly, in person. Now in a traditional in-person interaction, before social distancing, we know from our data that about 20% of those interactions used digital content. Now today, you can assume if they're face-to-face, but they're separated, they're socially distanced, the use of content is actually much lower because they have to be apart. They're not standing shoulder to shoulder. And of course, the data generating aspect, because you're not using content, also goes down. And then finally, other channels, we can go on down the list, but chat, as an example, due to compliance regulations, we often don't allow the use of sharing content via chat. And as a result, it's also not data generating. This is the reality, and we know this is suboptimal. So our vision is to try to change that picture for you. And to do that with our platform called Engage. And as a result of doing that, being able to use more content that's more relevant and targeted to generate insights, which you can use for future conversations to add that professional value, you can create deeper relationships. So what do we mean by this? With Engage, most everyone thinks about Engage as that very left-hand column. What you're seeing is the native Engage meeting. We're changing that. We're extending the Engage platform to be able to support unique capabilities in Zoom and Teams. For example, being able to share a link to do a signature, sample signature request, or to do a signature capture for a medical inquiry, as an example. To be able to share content, we have a new capability in Engage called Engage Share, which allows you to share a link So you can do screen sharing when you're having a phone conversation. That's very powerful because you can share content and also gain insights into what happened in that conversation. And likewise, use that same capability to share content when you're socially distanced in an office. So imagine being in that office setting, sending a link to your customer which they can click on, and you can immediately start screen sharing and being socially distanced from each other and safe. And then, of course, in chat, sending links to content, enabling really powerful capture of what happens during that interaction in a chat message, all of this enabled by Engage. So we're extending Engage from being one narrow slice of this picture to this full slice, powering content use and data generation across the entire spectrum. And we call that the Engage platform and our vision of meet, connect, and share. So meet, you're generally familiar with. Most of you know Engage Meeting as the interaction that happens during that meeting. But again, we're extending that to Zoom and to Teams so you can share content more seamlessly, you can track and understand what happens during those conversations. Connecting is about connecting after that meeting. So enabling the capability for you to reach out to your customers in between meetings, or for your customer to reach out to you and ask you for information or content. You can share and connect very, very easily. And then sharing, which we highlighted, this idea that you may be on a phone conversation or you may be socially distanced and you can share content in your screen without even being on an Engage meeting, and making that very, very simple, but using the Engage platform technology. So this is our vision. We're very excited about it. You're going to hear more about this when Povilas talks about the roadmap. So certainly one you don't want to miss. As a result of doing more digital, and as a result of having to get more precise about the content that you share with your customers, there's a need to create content faster. We all know that content creation can be expensive, it can be time consuming, and it's our vision to increase the speed to market of your content by 75%. We call that creating faster content and doing that at scale. Now, we want to be able to impact the entire content lifecycle, really every aspect of it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're actively engaged in every part. It means that we're supporting either a partner or using directly Veeva technology, or supporting with an operating model change as an example. So in the early stages, it's enabling partners and content creation tools like Adobe, as an example, integrating tightly with Adobe in the Vault so that content can be consumed and downloaded and then placed back into the system and used in modules, enabling the creation, the approval, the publishing of that content out to any channel, whether that content ends up on a sales rep's iPad or whether that content ends up on a website. Being able to do that very efficiently and doing it at speed. And we're enabling the speed through modular content. We're investing heavily in this modular content area. And it's a really key area where we think we can drive dramatic reuse and dramatic savings and speed in the content lifecycle. So stay tuned for the content keynote that you're going to hear later, which is going to talk about our strategy around modular content. Doing that at scale. We know it's not only about the technology, but it's about how you change your operating model. And we have people that can help you rethink and reshape what your operating model looks like, how you tag content, how you create it, the management, the librarian services to manage all of that content, and how your work processes fit together. And then, of course, using deep insights and intelligence about what happens through every stage of that life cycle so that we can pinpoint where you can gain efficiencies. So this is a key area of focus we're super excited about, and you'll hear more about that today. And then data innovation. So data, we know, is a key area and a key driver of doing digital well. And you all know that we started, our first entry into data was in the open data space, and we're gaining a lot of momentum in open data. Our open data customers are very, very happy, and we've accelerated our investment in open data and in our entire data business, for that matter. Open data, we've invested a lot of people, particularly in the European market, to create a better data set. We're creating a data set around the complete healthcare ecosystem that is higher data quality, and that also has a roadmap. Just like a software product has a roadmap, our data sets have a roadmap. So we're adding new attributes around the healthcare professional and the organization. One example is email addresses. We're proud to announce that we're going to have email addresses as an attribute of open data in the European market. We're also adding more countries. We're adding 40 countries globally. 20 plus of those countries are, in fact, in the European market. So in Europe, our coverage will expand dramatically. We'll be at over 70. When we achieve this 40 plus, we'll be over 70 countries that we support open data globally. And again, that complete healthcare ecosystem, creating a really complete, accurate data set. So you can do not only digital engagement well, but also really that shift in the market to more of an account-based engagement model, understanding those complex relationships between the accounts, all part of open data. Also Link. Now Link, if you haven't heard of yet, Link is real-time intelligence about key people and key accounts that Veeva curates. We use machine learning and AI, but we also use human beings to curate really rich information about people like scientific experts and thought leaders. And then we take that information and we make it available within Link, because it's data, but it's also software to visualize that. But we also make it easy to get that data and those insights directly into Veeva CRM, where your users, either whether it's field medical or someone in sales, can access that information as part of and create their engagement plan. They can use it right before they have an interaction, so they are most effective. So it's putting those insights exactly where they need them most. And we're super excited about that. We made that really, really easy. Without having to load all that data into Veeva CRM, you can create that connectivity. Now I want to take a moment here and show you what Link looks like, because Link is best understood by seeing it. So let's take a moment to look at a demo. Link has many ways to find the critical information I need. Here I have a dynamic news feed based on the key people that matter most to me. It includes information such as regional congresses, publications, clinical trials information, and relevant social activities, as well as details on speakers and investigators. It even suggests emerging experts that I should consider meeting. Link's market analysis shows me market-level insights. For example, active clinical trials, so that I can understand the competitive landscape. I can easily see who's conducting which trials, trial phase, location, and investigators. In a similar way, I can dive into more than 100,000 relevant congresses and scientific associations. I can also search for thought leaders, congresses, scientific content, and associations. Here, I'm going to search key people based on topic and location. When I drill in, I get a deep profile that includes activities, affiliations, featured topics, company collaborations, and payments all in one place. The timeline includes over a decade of chronological activities that can easily be filtered. I can also learn more about their top collaborators. Here, I can easily see all employees at my company that follow this thought leader or that have interacted with them because it's integrated into Veeva CRM. The social tab shows all of their Twitter and YouTube information. As you can see, Link Insights are also accessible from within Veeva CRM. I can see the same deep profiles and details, such as the newsfeed, customer, market, and scientific insights right where I need it. The thought leader profiles are also directly available, allowing me to plan my engagements with key people. So you just saw some of the power of Link, of how Link is able to surface rich information about key people and thought leaders and clinical trials, and put that information at the fingertips of the rep, again, embedded directly in Veeva CRM. So we invite you to learn more about Link today, and there's a number of sessions that'll showcase it, and it'll go into much more detail than what I just showed. Now, beyond what we're doing in data, we're also focused on the user experience. The user experience matters. It's critically important in the enterprise software space, and we're taking that very, very seriously. And our strategy for user experience is to focus in on the unique roles that exist in the life sciences company. We know that field medical is very different than a key account manager, is different than a specialty sales rep, as an example. So we're building applications that are very uniquely focused on those roles, but also the purpose, the job that they're trying to accomplish. Not only is the role different, but what they do in that job can be highly unique. So we're addressing role and purpose, but also choice. And that's choice in device and choice in platform, because we believe different people have different preferences of how they want to work and we want to enable those preferences. So those are all key to our strategy. And I'm pleased to share that we're expanding our portfolio of role-specific business applications. So let me describe a little bit about what this means. As you know, we've invested heavily in the Lightning online user experience for Veeva CRM. So our customers are able to take advantage of Lightning. We're working with our customers to get everybody moved over to take advantage of Lightning by the end of 2023. And as a result of doing that, you're going to have a portfolio of business applications that are highly unique based on the very specific role. So if you're an events coordinator and you log into Veeva CRM, you're going to have an entirely different experience than if you're a field medical rep, a medical science liaison, or someone in marketing, or a pharmacy sales rep. When you log in, your experience, what you see, the way you interact with that will be entirely different, and it'll be very purpose-built for the job that you're trying to accomplish. So these are some of the examples of the kinds of business apps that we've delivered on already. It's not the full list, and there's even more to come. So we're investing heavily in Lightning, and I encourage you all to learn more about Lightning and hopefully have that plan in place to get there quickly. And then, of course, the choice in device and choice in platform. We think choice is really important. We want you to be able to choose. We want your users to be able to choose what they are most comfortable with. So this includes the phone. And we're pleased to announce that we will be supporting a phone app that will be essentially always connected, that will work like your email works today on your phone. So you can connect via the iPhone on an app or the Android phone on an app. And that's coming, and you'll hear about the timing of that and the details in our roadmap session. Also, the iPad, of course, this is not going away. This is not changing. We're going to continue to invest in the iPad, so that'll be a great experience. But then also the desktop experience. Now, why is the desktop experience so important now? It's important because your field teams, many of them have moved into a home office environment. And working from the field is very different than working from your home office. In a home office, most people tend to work from a desktop. And they may work from a Windows desktop or they may work from a Mac. And we want to create that flexibility to work from either operating system. We don't think we should choose, we think you should choose. And that's why we're going to create a great experience on the desktop. Now, in addition, on the desktop, we're also going to have specific apps back to supporting the specific roles, like the desktop CRM app, which allows the sharing, the finding of content, the sharing of content, and presentation of that content really seamlessly and really easily. We're making that easier to do, whether you're using a native Engage meeting or a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting. We want to create that great experience and give you the choice that you need. So really proud about the progress that we're making there and some of the innovations. And when all of this comes together, we call all of this Commercial Cloud. And Commercial Cloud is bringing together great software. It's bringing together data, unique data assets, and integrating them tightly together. So integrating those data assets into the software where the business users need them most. That's really critical. It's a key part of our strategy. It's highly differentiated. So bringing together software and data, and then also consulting. So the domain experts, the people that know and understand the art of the possible, what is possible with the technology, so they can help you create a go-to-market model that can be supported easily and enabled by the technology. They're not disconnected, they're highly connected. So software, data, and deep domain experts and consultants, that's part of Commercial Cloud, and then supporting all of these really key pillars around data, content, and engagement. So with that, we're aspiring to help you to deliver on the very deepest relationships possible. And we're doing that through enabling digital excellence, through data innovation, using data in unique and innovative ways and integrating into that software that your business users need it the most, but then also across a user experience, making it really powerful and really easy for all of your users, regardless of what their role is, to get the most out of using Veeva and become the most effective. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening today, and I'd like to turn it back over to Chris.
Fantastic. Thank you as ever, Paul. And if you'd like to hear more about what Paul was talking about there, you can see more in the roadmap sessions throughout the day. So be sure not to miss those. Now, it's time for my favorite part of Summit, At Viva, we love celebrating our customers' successes and people making an impact. And there's no better example of that than our very own Viva Heroes. So this year, I have the honor of announcing this year's Viva Heroes. We have 4 individual prizes and 2 team prizes for folks who've displayed outstanding leadership within their organizations and across the industries. So it's my pleasure to introduce them to you. So first up, we have Agnes Kelty from Norgine. Agnes has done tremendous work with the commercial content community. Her leadership, openness, and willing to share her expertise and best practices has helped so many across the industry. On top of that, she has continued to streamline the content processes at Norgine and shape the direction of VivaPulse content metrics. To learn more from Agnes, please attend the UK industry panel, Thriving Amidst Disruption in Biopharma, today at 2 o'clock Central European Time in the local roundtable track. Next up, we have Morten Cruz Jakobsen from Novo Nordisk. Morten is being recognized for leading the way with modular content. At Novo, Morten has been able to increase content reuse by 40% and achieve 65% faster speed to market with modular content. Morten's pioneering spirit and innovative thinking contributed to what has now become the industry standard in PromoMats and modular content. Next up, we have Kate Payne from Astellas. Kate has transformed their engagement strategy by launching Engage Meeting in 44 countries. With Kate's vision and organization, they were able to do this in just 6 weeks. To hear more about Astellas's journey in this and their new HCP engagement strategy, join Kate's session, Astellas Digital Engagement Excellence, at 2 o'clock Central European Time in the new commercial model track. Last of our individual awards is Jean-Francois Suarez from L'Oréal. So with the good of patients in mind, Jean-Francois challenged the status quo and executed on his HCP engagement vision across L'Oréal's pharma and derma care. Along with his colleagues, Francois de Cormis and Marie Janes, Jean-Francois enabled 2,500 users in 22 countries with digital engagement channels. Congratulations. Now, for the first of our 2 team awards, we have Boehringer Ingelheim and Aubrey Severa and Beata Hansman from Boehringer Ingelheim. Aubrey and Beata successfully rolled out digital events in 77 countries during the pandemic. Together, they tackled the challenges of meeting local business processes and requirements while maintaining a global event standards. And finally, from Otsuka, we have Debbie Young and Paul Allen, who rolled out Viva CRM across 15 countries, all done remotely during the pandemic. They created a solid foundation for future product launches to meet HCP preferences with digital channels and content. To hear more about Otsuka's digital success, hear from Debbie, who is also a panelist in the UK industry panel, Thriving Amidst Disruption in Biopharma today, at 2 p.m. Central European Time in the local roundtable track. Congratulations to all of this year's heroes. You can find more about them on the Heroes tab on the Summit platform. We look forward to hearing from them throughout the day, and please seek out their sessions. Now, there are no end of things to keep you educated and entertained throughout the day. So we have over 60 sessions today on the agenda page. We have 4 tracks: the new commercial model, faster digital content at scale, data and analytics for digital excellence, and maximizing the impact of medical affairs. We also have local sessions in 5 languages, and you can watch on demand the day in the life and discovery sessions on the on-demand contents page. And don't forget to join the the expert rooms and the lunchtime chat live with Pharma Exec at 12:45 Central European time. Now, the real stars of the show are always our customer speakers. We'd like to thank all of this year's speakers, not just for taking the time out and spending their valuable time to share their insights, learnings, and understanding, but also for their incredible work throughout the year, which led to them joining today. So thank you to all of them. Please take time to see as many of their sessions as possible. And then to close off today, we have a really special session. We've got a closing keynote at 3:30 Central European time between Peter Gunther, the CEO of Merck Healthcare, and our very own Peter Gassner, the founder and CEO of Veeva. They'll have a unique discussion on how the last 2 years are going to shape the next 2 decades, from both a healthcare and life sciences perspective and also a technology perspective. So you will not want to miss that. So all that's left for me to say is have an absolutely fantastic day today. I look forward to talking to you and speaking with many of you throughout the day. Have a great day and enjoy all the sessions. Take care.